Good morning to all, and we're live. We're live. We're live. We're live. Good morning to everybody. Welcome to Behind the Markets, brother Vernon. How are you doing? How art thou, my brother?
Um, that's almost we're almost clocking the 20th of April. I don't know if of late I've been really consistent at following the days, but I think it's same as we've been following the kwacha consistently depreciating and now appreciating, and consistently been handsome as well. I don't know how you're doing this morning.
I'm good. I'm good. So, to everyone, thank you very much, my brother. So, today we're going to have a little bit of a special session. One of
Mm.
the biggest pieces of news that is on everyone's mind is how does NAPSA work? Because now they actually have to understand this. Especially for people who have made at least 5 years worth of contributions, they are all eagerly trying to find out, okay, so how does this thing work? So that I know what to claim, how much to claim, how does it work, everything. So today we're going to actually have a special session aside from the usual behind the markets, where on the other side of the break, I'm going to take you through a few calculations that you can utilize on how to actually get to your balance. What are your benefits? What does it mean? All this stuff. It's actually quite confusing to a lot of people. And one thing, Vernon, I've actually come to understand is most people don't even know why they're putting money there. They don't know what the benefit is. And because of the lack of, for rather a better word, lack of enthusiasm into what people are getting, they end up actually not being able to understand the benefits of it. So right now, all people have heard is free money. I can go and get my money finally. That's all people have heard. That's why there are queues at NAPSA. The system is crashing. Everybody's saying, if I can find, because they kind of just look at it as your money. And nobody's pretty much looking at it as what it's for, what it's supposed to cater to. So I'm going to talk about a few of those things as well, because it is Wealth Wednesday today. So it is part of our conversation is about making sure we can touch on what this actually means for many people. But just quickly, and then obviously we'll get back to the rest of the behind the market. So I just wanted to introduce today as a little bit of a change. I know you're all used to me running up the markets, seeing how the numbers are doing. That's going to come on the other side of things. But today, at the beginning of Behind the Markets, you're going to have to get your calculators out, your notepads out, everything, so that you can actually figure out how much value is actually sitting in the account. Now, Vernon, I'm also akin to the fact that on Facebook, there are over 3 million Zambians, and NAPSA only has 950,000 contributors. So effectively, about 75% of the people on Facebook doing this have nothing like this in their NAPSA account. You don't even have an NAPSA account to begin with. Okay, a majority of people don't even have NAPSA accounts. They're just literally they just love the conversation and being part of it. But quite a number of people, even who do have NAPSA accounts, still want to know how do I calculate my balance? What's there? What's my 20%? Because remember, you've been told you can acquire 20%. You can actually get 20% and you got this one shot. But on the other side of it, Vernon, we're going to talk about this one shot, introduce what the topic is, and then go through a few of the formulas that you should be utilizing for your calculation.
All right. And thank you for still staying tuned to Money this wonderful morning. And just to really get into the heart of the conversation right now, we should be getting, all right, there is getting into the whole aspect of the conversation today.
So thank you very much once again, Vernon. And once again, as I said, today is going to be a bit of an interesting one. We're going to take a little bit of a deviation, but for the benefit of the people, because this is a hot topic. It's everyone's. It's the big point that everyone's discussing. It's everybody's biggest concern. People who've never even heard of NAPSA don't have it. They're rushing around trying to figure out what is this thing. Some people are asking, do I have NAPSA? Do I not? So let's start with some of the information on it. And I'm going to just quickly share just a few things before we get in, and also take you through a little bit of a formula, people. I know we don't like math all the time, but this actually helps. So yesterday I gave you this clip here where I said, look, this is your wealth. If you're a Zambian, this is your standard wealth bucket that you have, or what we call your liquid wealth buckets. And you have here what's called your paper wealth, which is your stocks, bonds, cash accounts, the things that you can, these are what we call tradable and marketable securities, things you can liquidate on an open market or on some sort of tradable market. Then there's your NAPSA account, which is part of your wealth estate. And the reason I say this is because these are the things that if you were to pass away, these are the inheritable items. Okay, these are all the inheritable, the things that other people can inherit, except aside from a life insurance policy. Let's be honest, about a percent of Zambians have a life insurance policy. And then employer pensions, which are also quite slim. In case your employer is somebody who gives you a gratuity, a pension, something. What we've also got is rental property that you have, and emergency money as well. So this is kind of the stuff that people would inherit, but then you net off any non-mortgage based debt. Because then the mortgage debt will probably go onto your rental property. But this is what we call your liquid net wealth. Okay, this is what you'd have as a person. So NAPSA is part of it. And NAPSA is a social security scheme that has been set up by the government specifically to try and help people, because they understand, and let's be very honest here, by the number of people running for this withdrawal, that people don't save in this country. Okay, let's all have that honest statement here. People don't save. So it was put together because of that. Now, the reality, and remember that we've had a history of government-run pension schemes throughout this country. They've been a disaster at the beginning, but this new hybrid one started in 2001. Now, I'm going to quickly say this, Vernon. One of the mistakes I think a lot of people make when it comes to pension is that we often think NAPSA is part of the pension gang. The pension gang, I mean, are the ones that don't pay people and people die. And we all say, so many retirees have died without receiving. There are four government-run pensions, or three, sorry. There are three main government-run pensions and a fourth one which used to run, but it doesn't anymore. There is Zambia National Provident Fund, which was the predecessor of NAPSA. Okay, everybody used to contribute to Zambia National Provident Fund back before 2001, but actually closed up at about 96. But everyone used to contribute something called Zambia National Provident Fund. Then there is Local Superannuation Fund, which is for the councils. It's called LASIF. It's for the council workers. And then there's public service pension. Now, the majority of the retirees that you were seeing retiring, queuing up in town, on that, behind that railway, that people used to say, was to get to public service pension. Okay, public service pension was the one that used to have serious issues not paying people, and a lot of people died without receiving the public service pension, the one which is for the government employees. Okay, so unfortunately, public service pension has had such a bad reputation, as well as LASIF as well. LASIF and public service pension have had such a poor reputation that what they've ended up doing is they've ended up rippling into NAPSA. So everyone thinks NAPSA is exactly the same. So you're taking the stories of those pensioners and saying it was NAPSA, when actually these are two different pension schemes. Okay. It's just that they're all run by the government, unfortunately, or a national agency. So the first thing you need to do is separate them. NAPSA has actually had quite a decent track record in managing benefits. It's just that, unfortunately, it's kind of under the sting of the reputation that it's gained, or it's garnered from its cousins, let me say. Now, it's like you, Vernon, you're an upstanding citizen, but your cousins are murderers and bank robbers. Unfortunately, no matter how good a person you are, and they use your surname, and then your surname is associated with murdering and bank robbing. But Vernon went to school. Vernon has a family. Vernon has been a good man. But unfortunately, because his cousins are murderers and bank robbers, they think all of the people with Vernon's surname are like that. That's what NAPSA is suffering from. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying that it's way better, way better than those ones. Okay, and there are payments that have come out through it. I've done it with customers. I've done a lot of things with people, but yes. So the first step everyone needs to understand now, NAPSA is contributed to by employed people. There are self-employed people, but really 95% of NAPSA contributions are done by formally employed people, where the employer must register their NAPSA workers, must register their employees, and contribute 5% of the money directly into an account, directly into their NAPSA account. Okay, so that's the main focus I want everyone to try and push when dealing with NAPSA. So now there's just a few things that I want to put on our minds here. The first one being that whenever you're doing any contributions or savings and investing, this is kind of the way a person's savings and investing goes into the 4 different buckets here, which I call, these are your wealth buckets. So this kind of gives you an idea of what you should be doing and what you should be tracking at any given time to understand your wealth estate. By the way, when people pass away, this is the problem. Not many people, Vernon, have got a consolidated picture of their wealth estate. They only have a partial picture of their wealth estate. And as a result, we end up seeing a lot of people not being able to manage a lot of their pensions. I mean, a lot of their wealth estate. So when it's time to transfer it, maybe when they've passed away, it's a very scrappy thing. And then people are left without anything. And because they've depended on an income the whole time, and this person who maybe was a breadwinner or an income earner has now vanished, now they don't know what's claimable, what's not. And because of that, people don't seem to plan their way through it. So let's just zero in on this NAPSA thing itself. Now, this is actually stuff that we've actually had to pick up from them. And NAPSA actually has actually had 2 streams of benefits. Now, these numbers have changed a little bit, but from what we're seeing here, NAPSA benefits have got 4 main streams of benefits. There's the normal retirement pension, okay, which is payable at age 55, 60. And it's for people who have done 15 years of contributions or 180 contributions cumulatively. Early retirement, 55, late retirement, 65. So that number has actually changed to 65, and that's where people can now claim retirement. So that's when maybe you've said, I'm no longer working, I would like to now start living on a pension. Now, I just want to quickly define, people. A pension is a salary that you get effectively. It's a monthly payment that you receive in your retirement days in exchange for the fact that, Vernon, you are no longer physically able to, or just you are no longer in the workforce. You can now retire, go off into the final stages of your life. You can choose whether you want to write a book, whether you want to counsel people. Do as you will now. Okay, you've earned your freedom. You're a little bit older, yes, but you've earned your freedom. So at this point, you can now start living life differently. By this time, we also expect, Vernon, you've got no more little children, although some guys these days are special. This is when they start trying to have families. This is when they start also trying to add on to families. But most people, just by this time, your children are out, your life is out. So your life has structurally changed by the time you're in your 50s. Okay, that's how most people's lives are. The second type of benefit is something called invalidity. This is a person who has been declared unfit to work on medical grounds. They should have at least made 12 contributions in the last 3 years, and they've made 60 contributions altogether. 60 contributions or 5 years. Okay, they've been contributing to NAPSA for a cumulative point of 5 years or 60 months. Okay, that's what you should be doing. And then the fourth one is called a survivor's benefit. When a pensioner dies, or somebody who's contributing to NAPSA dies, their spouse and biological children are paid, okay, a certain amount, and also an administrator can also make a claim as well. But their spouse and their biological children are paid a specific amount towards this. And then added to this is also the benefit of what you call a funeral grant. After someone has passed away, if you come with their death certificate and they were contributing to NAPSA and they were not a pensioner, okay, they're not a pensioner. So they're not receiving a monthly pension, but they have been contributing to it, then NAPSA gives you about 12,500 kwacha for your funeral expenses. And this is after. Okay, so it's almost like a funeral, it's a reimbursement of some sort for the funeral expenses themselves. So that's kind of how how it actually works out. Now, who qualifies for a pension? The people who qualify for a pension are people in early, late, or normal retirement who have at least contributed 180 months. So 180 months of contributions have been done to your NAPSA account, and any member that does not meet this criteria is paid a lump sum. Okay. Now, you can only qualify for this money when you're at retirement age, or when you're declaring retirement, you have passed away, and your what's it? And your beneficiaries are declaring it, or you have been deemed, or you're under invalidity, which means for medical reasons, Vernon, you can no longer work. Okay, maybe you are at this point. Maybe there's a disability that is affecting your ability to work, and therefore you can no longer, and then you can claim invalidity. Those are the different options that you have. And then, should you have passed away, the funeral grant also kicks in. If you passed away before, and your survivors are currently trying to also are coming to claim your survivor's benefit, they also claim your funeral grant if you've at least been making contributions for the last 3 years. If you've made 12 contributions in the last 3 years, you are entitled to your funeral grant. If you made 12 contributions in the last 3 years, you're entitled to a funeral grant as well. That becomes invalid if you haven't made 12 contributions in the last 3 years. Okay, so those are the other things. So basically, who qualifies for a pension? I just want to put this as well. The special features of your pension. Right now, the minimum it can be, if you are at retirement age and you're claiming NAPSA, the minimum it can be is 1,342 kwacha currently, or 20% of the national average wage. This is why I say NAPSA is actually quite important, or getting to 180 contributions is actually quite important, Vernon, for people who are low income earners. If you are maybe a housekeeper and you're busy and you're putting and you're a NAPSA, or if you're a factory worker who gets paid like 3,000 kwacha, if you're a low income worker, you really want to be careful about trying to get a lump sum from NAPSA, because that is going to put you in a very vulnerable position where the lump sum will finish. So if you're a low income worker, you want to get to 180 contributions, because that means your NAPSA is going to be a significant amount of your retirement. Okay, because the 20% of the national average wage. Now, here's another thing about a pension, is that it increases with the inflation. So whatever your pension is calculated, it increases with inflation every single year. Okay, so every year your pension increases with inflation. Wage inflation. In other words, the percentage that the national average wage has gone up, it increases, and it's for people who've done a minimum of 180 contributions. So this is actually what gets a lot of people to understand this. So let's take a look at the people who would get a lump sum benefit, because that's what I'm trying to calculate here. The people who would get a lump sum benefit. Sorry about that. We just had a little problem here. So members who don't qualify for the conditions of a pension will either get a retirement lump sum, meaning you've reached retirement age 55, 60, 65, and you want to try and claim your NAPSA now. Okay, you've reached retirement age and you've actually declared that you're a retiree. Now you want to stop contributing and you'd like to live off it. That is your retirement lump sum. So you can get a retirement lump sum. In other words, they can actually give you the amount. This is if you've done less than 180 contributions. If you've done more than 180 contributions, you automatically, you are at 180. You are at that. And invalidity, if you are on medical grounds deemed that you can no longer continue to work, or survivors benefits if you've passed away, you've left beneficiaries, and these beneficiaries have got specific. Criteria, and it's not just any survivor that you put. It is mainly there to support your spouse who you are married to, and your biological, not your side chick people or your side person, your spouse, okay, with a marriage certificate, and your biological children. Okay, that's who this is actually meant for. So the people who are eligible for it, and I'll go through the people. It's your spouse, children under 18 or children under 25 in formal education, an unborn child as well, and the child of any age disabled by 18 at the death of the member. So somebody who was also under disability. And in the absence of a spouse, lump sum payments will be made to the administrator of the deceased estate. Now, how are these payments designed? There's an actual formula that most people don't want to, may not know, is that a spouse, your estate, your NAPSA benefit is actually calculated into a lump sum, or whether it's at a pension or a lump sum, depending on what state it is, and it is split into shares. That's the way they do it. They split it into shares. So a spouse gets 2 shares, a child gets 1 share, an administrator, only in the event of no spouse or no child, can now step in, but they get 1 share. And additionally, which is the bone of contention for many people, NAPSA gets 1 share as well, because NAPSA shares in your pension. The same institution you're going to collect from, they also get a share. So a simple example is, let's say your pension estate is 100,000. We'll show you how to get there very soon. But let's say your pension estate is at 100,000 kwacha. If it's 100,000 kwacha, then what you'll get is that if you died and it was just you and your spouse gets 2 shares, NAPSA gets 1 share. That means your whole pension benefit is broken into 3 shares, 2 of which go to your spouse. So your spouse gets 66,000 and NAPSA keeps 33,000. So in the event, let's say you have a child, let's say you are married and you have a child, your spouse gets 2 shares, your child gets 1 share, NAPSA gets 1 share. So therefore, that 100,000 is broken into 4 shares, of which NAPSA gets 25,000, your child gets 25,000, your spouse gets 50,000. So you see how that's broken. Now, let's say you died with 3 children, or let's say you died with 4 children. Let's use 3 children. If you died with 3 children, that means your spouse gets 2 shares, the 3 children get 1 share, the NAPSA gets 1. You divide your estate into 6 shares, 2 go to your spouse, 1 each goes to your children. So it's divisible by the total number of shares, and it's the number of beneficiaries who are categorized. Let's say you passed away, no spouse, but you have children. If you died with no spouse but you have children, your spouse, if you died with no spouse but you have children, your spouse no spouse but you have children, your children get 1 share each, and NAPSA also gets a share. So let's say you have your pension estate 100,000, you are a single parent, 1 child, no one else. Your child gets 1 share, NAPSA gets 1, so your child gets half of your NAPSA. Okay, that's how this works, unfortunately. So the people who are the most punished by the survivor benefit system are the people who are not married and did not have children. Okay, if the less children you have, and the less survivors and the less children you have, and being single means that NAPSA has a bigger share of your pension. They retain a lot of it. And so finally, if you die single, no children, no spouse, your administrator steps in. Your administrator of your estate gets 1 share, and NAPSA gets 1 share. So in other words, 50% of your estate. So your administrator is like a child. So that is how this whole system is broken up. It's unfair. If you feel it's unfair, take it up with your MPs, people. These are the things your MPs are actually supposed to be talking about, instead of half of the nonsensical things that they bring up. These are the things they should actually be talking about for all of you to understand. But that's how your pension benefit is brought up. Now, everyone's biggest thought today is that pension calculations, people are looking for 20, they're trying to calculate what is 20%. What is my 20% of my pension? Okay, that's the big kahuna of a question that everyone is battling and grappling with right now. So let's break down what is your 25% and how do we get to that calculation. So this is the formula that we are all going to follow today. And this means that all of your contributions that you put into NAPSA are inflated by something called a wage inflation factor. That's how you get to your current balance. And it evolves each year. So you have to track something called the national average wage. So NAPSA every year looks at all their contributors and they calculate what is the national average of the people who are the national average earnings. Okay, so the national average earnings. So they got all their 950,000 people and they're trying to calculate what is the national average salary based on our 950,000 people who are contributing to NAPSA. So they get the average every single year and they publish that. So this is the simple calculation. You take the year you were given, and I'm giving you an example of last year, not this year. Let's say last year you were trying to claim. So let's say you did a contribution, Vernon, in 2001. That contribution is inflated. Okay, so we don't say we add interest to it, we say we inflate it. It's inflated by a factor of this year's national wage, this year's national average, and this year's national average is actually 6,700. This was last year's, and divided by the national average at the time you made the contribution. Okay, and you do this to every single one of you. So when you get your NAPSA statement, that's just your raw contributions. What you do to each of those contributions is you inflate them by their factor. So one by one, you have to inflate them by their factor. And the factor is this year's wage divided by the average wage, not your personal wage, Vernon, the average wage of Zambians. Okay, this year's average Zambian wage divided by the average wage at the time you made it. So for a contribution made in 2001, you inflate it by 24.91. So in other words, if it's 100 kwacha, then in terms of if you contributed 100 kwacha in 2001, then today that value is 2,491 in your actual indexed value. This is what they mean when they say wage indexed. Okay, that's what they mean. So your employer's contribution plus your contribution. So you put 5%, your employer puts 5%, you put those together, and then you multiply it by the wage factor. So get your NAPSA statement and look at the years. The year is the most critical factor, and get the actual dates that you get for these things. Now, let's say a person made a contribution in 2011 when the average wage was 2,668 versus last year where it was 6,109. The inflation factor is 2.91. So you multiply whatever contributions you made in 2011 by 2.91. Okay. So, Vernon, I know this is classroom style. As I said, today is a bit of a special session. So maybe let me ask you, does that make sense? Your microphone's off.
Absolutely, it does make sense, and with what we've actually been getting on social media, I've actually been following the entire conversation from what people, of course, are throwing all over social media, with or without little knowledge about the whole, pension scheme. For starters, it actually came up last year, and people, of course, were just a bit nonchalant about it because it had less impact. Being just introduced, saying the people now can partially, or rather will be allowed to partially at least withdraw part of their monies. There were conversations here and there, but of course still vague. Now that they've been allowed to, everyone is talking about it, even those, of course, who are not on the pension scheme, those who have no understanding of what the pension scheme
It's a good marketing technique. It's a good marketing tactic.
Actually seeing a meme on social media yesterday was, imagine coming around and trying to withdraw your money and realize that your employer hasn't been paying for your pension for at least 6 months.
Somebody has actually put here that Mo actually says, and I'll get this comment here from Minimo, has actually said, I feel the upside of the partial contribution or partial withdrawal is that in the long run, NAPSA will get more contributors because people will now pressure their employers to remit. So it's true, actually. People are like, hey, me also want to get my money. Can we please get to 60? So it's true.
Yes,
I think the added benefit will actually help with compliance. It probably will. And I think maybe and even individuals who are looking to, it's a little bit of an incentive to say you can access some of it. So here's my only thing with the partial contribution, partial withdrawal. You have one partial withdrawal. One. Okay? Not 50, not 20, one. I'm seeing a lot of people rushing to NAPSA offices just go and withdraw on an instant. The question is, Is this the time you need it? Because you don't know what tomorrow has to hold, Vernon. What if your big business idea that just requires a 10, 20,000, which you now have access to, or 5,000, which you now have access to, finally pitches up 5 years from now, and now you've squandered that one opportunity, okay? And now you don't have access to it. So please, people, think very carefully about it. Think very, very carefully about it, okay? Some of the people are saying, where's that number coming from? The numbers, okay, that 2.9 came from the fact that we divided what is the average wage, okay, the average wage of the country, total average wage. So we looked at what is the average person earning in Zambia. NAPSA publishes that every single year, okay. They've got it tracked from 2001, from 2000 actually. The average wage divided by the average wage at the time you made that contribution. So if that one was 2.29, because the average contribution back in 2011, not the average contribution, the average wage, the average earnings, the average monthly earnings that somebody had in 2011 was 2,600. And so you divided 6,109 divided by 2,668, and that gives you 2.29. So therefore, you inflate all of them by that factor. Now, this has changed a little bit because today's wage has increased. So I think we can now remove that. Hopefully, that answers that question for everyone. Try and help. Okay, so let's now take a look at what we can do. And I know we've got another question here by JBSP who's saying, good morning, good session here. Can one choose with where their pension is invested, or is it possible for pension contributors to decide the risk appetite and goals? Not at all. NAPSA has got absolute autonomy over the investment decisions that they make with your money. Not at all. So yes, good morning, Mr. Mutwale. If you multiply the contribution with your wage index, does that mean the product is your benefit? Do a revision, please. Okay, so go to that. Because I was going to give an actual example now to go into this. So, yes, the product of those two things is your benefit today. That's what that means. So you take each contribution made. So you look at the bottom part. It says each contribution made in 2001, you then multiply it by that 24.91. Now, I'm going to give you the actual indexation figures as of this year. It has changed. This is end of last year, people. It has changed, okay? So I'm going to give you a live example now, and I'm going to go into my system here to actually help you with this one. And I'm going to give you an example of a person, because I know one thing, Vernon, people learn by explanation and they learn by experience, but they also learn by example. So those are the three things. So I've given you an explanation. Now I'm going to give you an example. By the way, I've also had experience dealing with these things. Okay, all types of benefits for NAPS, I've experienced dealing with them. So that's how I know most of what I'm dealing with here. And trust me, it comes from the experience. So this is, so let me just go into quickly here. This is a NAPSA calculator, a NAPSA benefits calculator that we have generated here. And I don't know if that's visible to everyone. Should I zoom in on that? Thank you very much to our tech team who had realized that our faces are not what people want to see at the moment. They want to see the numbers. Thank you for being alive to the situation, Brother Lucky. So this is an NAPSA benefits calculator, and it's something, it's blank right now. Okay, so I'm going to take the sample data, which we have put together, of a gentleman who has been contributing, and we're going to say, what about this gentleman named Joe Banda, who has been contributing since 2002, and their salary has been equal to the average wage since then. So I've got all this data which I've put here, and Joe Banda has been contributing since from 2002 all the way up to March 2023. Okay, so this is just the person that we're looking at. So Vernon, is this all visible to you?
Indeed, it is.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much. And I know I'm jumping through things live on TV. My mistake, people. But we've put this down for people so that you're able to see. So this is now we've put this in. And have you seen Joe Banda's data has come alive? You're able to see that now. Okay, so Joe Banda has been making contributions to their NAPSA all the way through. So total contributions that Joe Banda has been making totally to their NAPSA all the way through. Now, sorry, I just wanted to clear some of this quickly. But So now Joe Banda, and this is what some of this data is going to show, is that if you look at Brother Joe here, you'll notice that in let's look at 2002, where Joe made his first contribution, and that was 19 kwacha, because Joe was earning about 19. Sorry about that. We're just going to capture some of that mistake that was captured there. But let's say Brother Joe here is making 19,000, was making contributions of 19.3. This is a live calculator, people. We do make errors. Was making contributions from 19.3. Now, Joe Banda's contribution here was, as I said, 19 was 19 kwacha. His employer's contribution was 19 kwacha 53, and therefore it was 39 kwacha. But in 2021, the average wage was 390.69. This year it's 6,710, and as a result, we multiply that by 17.17, and therefore Joe Banda has now that contribution now is 671. Does that make sense, Vernon?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So basically, that's the wage factor. So it's 671 divided by 396, which was the average wage at that time, and you multiply it to this 39 kwacha that Joe Banda has, and that's where we get 607 in terms of what we call the indexed contribution. So that's what we've now inflated it. Let's take another figure of Joe Banda later on in life, later on in the twilight and the heydays of Joe Banda's life. We're now sitting at let's take a look at contributions made in 2010. All right. So Joe Banda's life in 2010 is equal to So let's move up here to about 2010. A contribution made in 2010, maybe Joe Banda contributed 108. Okay, 108 kwacha, and the employer also did the same, which was a total contribution of 217. So how do we treat that today? Joe Banda's contribution is then indexed to 300 by 3.09. Okay, so this is an example of a person whose wages are getting indexed all the way through. You can see that it's pretty much coming to the same number, but it's a person whose wages were getting indexed all the way through. So what this indexation means is now we can see what the value of this person's share is. So Joe Banda has contributed 39,000, but the total value of Joe Banda's NABSA is 171,000 over these many years. So I'm going to take another example of sample data that we put together here. And this is another Joe Banda because we're just running out of names to use. And this is one who has been contributing, who had contributed all the way up to, this is one who had contributed all the way up to the end of 2023. Okay. Sorry, up the end of 2022. So we're going to put this data in so that people can capture it as well. This is another one. So say this is a person who has been contributing, another Joe Banda who's been contributing, and their salary has been increasing by 8% every year. So when you capture this data, Vernon, what you start to see is that this individual, if you look at their 2010, so this was a contribution made in 2010. They put in 150, their employer put in 150, they had 300. So today's wage is 6,710, and then it's 2,173. That was the wage when they made that contribution. So the factor they multiplied by 3.09. So what you can see, and that makes it 926. So this 300 it actually reflects in today's terms as 926. What you can see is these inflation factors are different each year. So that's why you have to treat each year differently. Okay, you can total up the number of contributions that you made in any given year, and then you are able to look at it that way. Okay, so I think that's an example that we're looking at in terms of a contribution, in terms of contributions being made. Now, I want to go to the top panel quickly, just so that you can understand some of the points here. This individual here has made 250 contributions. Okay, this individual here has made 255 contributions, meaning they now are entitled for a pension. So if they were to retire, now how do we calculate this number? We calculate this number by multiplying it by 1.1111%. That is called the accrual factor. That is a number that has been generated by the actuaries that work with NABSA to generate this number. So you take your total indexed So you add up now. So you convert all your contributions into indexed contributions by finding their factor, their inflation factor, multiplying all of them. Then you bring it to today's terms. Once you get it to today's terms, then you are able to get what this means. Then you're able to get this total indexation. So this part here that says total indexed, okay, I'm just trying to highlight it here. This part here, this 188, this 188,312 is total index, means all these, now that I've converted each individual contribution into its index value, into its today's value, now I'm able to capture it and put it into the system as what it would be as the benefits today. So this is the benefit payable. Okay, so this is this is the amount payable, Vernon. If somebody, now we can just shift this away, you can finally remove that. This is the amount payable. Let's say if you pass away, that's the amount that's payable. Okay, remember, and I said that it's broken into shares. If you find yourself unable to work because you have gone through a period of invalidity, you can claim that. Okay, now the problem, the difference here is that if you have made over 250 over 180 contributions, you are no longer entitled to a lump sum, you're entitled to a pension. So if a person passes away and they've passed 180 contributions, then the people who are their survivors are going to receive the pension amount, the monthly payment, and it's also broken into shares. Okay, so you see how this works now. This is also broken into shares versus the person who maybe is receiving maybe not a pension now, but if they're getting a lump sum, if you got less than 180 contributions. So every month NAPSA is deducted, that's a single contribution. Every month you make a remittance, that's a single contribution. Okay, so if you're trying to calculate your 20%, it's that payable value. Now, whether you've passed 180, whether you're below 180, as long as you're above 60, you are now entitled to go and claim 20% of that pre-retirement for any things, even if, and you don't get it as a monthly payment, you get it as a lump sum. Now, how they've calculated, how will it affect your contribution number? That part we haven't been clear about yet. We haven't gotten clarity, and we will get back to you on that. But the point is, up to now, that is what you can do. So that's the amount you're looking for. All of you who are queuing up, trying to find out how much you can claim, that's what you do. So you get your NAPSA statement. Go log into your NAPSA. Okay, get your NAPSA statement, download it, and then go through each of those, and then you can calculate. Now, it's also a good number to know because in case you pass away, you also know what your loved ones are left with as well. So you know that my family will have this much. Okay, so if you let's say Vernon, if you have a wife and 2 kids, you know that 75% of your pension, it goes to your family. Okay, 75% of that indexed value is going to go to your family. Is it going to go to them as a lump sum, or is it going to go to them as a pension, as a monthly pension? Depends on whether you have got 108, whether you've passed 180 contributions or not. Unfortunately, these are numbers people don't know, and that's where the problem starts to come in. A lot of people have gone and wandered their lives without knowing that. So how much is the monthly pension? The monthly pension is either 20, the higher of 2 numbers, 20% of the national average wage, or 1.1111% of your indexed value. Okay, it's either 20% of the national, whichever one is higher. Okay, 20% of the national average wage, or 1.1111% of your indexed value of your shares, the total benefits payable. That is the total indexed value of your NAPSA benefit. Okay, of your NAPSA account. That is how you calculate whether you, and that's if you've passed 180. So that's how you work this number out. Okay, and it's only payable to beneficiaries. So if you died married, your spouse will get that payment until they pass. Okay, your children can only get that payment until they're 25. Okay, once they pass 25, they cannot receive that payment. If you died as a pensioner, you do not get the funeral grant. If you died before you declared pension, you can get the funeral grant. Okay, so these are the benefits you need to remember with NAPSA. But with NAPSA, the funeral grant requires that you've made 12 contributions in the last 36 months. If you have not made 12 contributions in the last 36 months, if you pass away, the funeral, you cannot get that 12,500 that is available to you, that is available to your family post your funeral, so that it becomes a reimbursement. So it actually is there to help. Many people don't even know that that actually exists. But if you are receiving a pension, not if you've passed 180 contributions, if you are already an active pensioner receiving your pension, the funeral grant does not apply to you any longer. So knowing all of that helps you understand your funeral benefits. Now, that NAPSA calculator is something that I will be distributing for quite some people. I'll be making it, it'll be something that will be available to people so that you can actually start to manage your NAPSA account. It's actually quite important, people. And if you don't know what's in there, you don't know who's going to get what, and therefore you also don't know. Now, unfortunately, the people who have got the greatest incentive, Vernon, of withdrawing their money are the single people who say, so if I die, NAPSA keeps half my money, I might as well take 20% now, so that they don't take everything. And unfortunately, that system of NAPSA getting a share of your benefits if you pass away, it's unfair. It truly is unfair. It is something that does need to be changed, but the problem is we're easily distracted as people, and we don't really get the gist of things. So I'm going to try and cover some of these questions which we're getting here. So, Mr. Mutwala, you're saying 180 showing up in as benefits on my friend's NAPSA app is not indexed. When indexed, it's more. So 20% is not on 36,000. So the 180,000 was the indexed one. The 36,000 was what would show up. So you're saying on your friend's NAPSA app. Okay. So if you're seeing your total contributions, what NAPSA will show you is your total contributions. But let me just answer this question I'll answer this question on the other side. We have got a little mild break, so I'll answer this question on the other side, minimal, and then we'll get through to any other things for today.
All right. Quick break, and we're back at it.
Microphone and page were off, so thank you to everyone there. I can see, we can actually see attendance is abnormally high today. Attendance is really high today. Today's show. Thank you very much to everyone. So the amount that often shows on your NAPSA app is your total contributions. They don't give you the indexed value. So if it depends if they maybe have finally updated that, but NAPSA generally give you a contribution history, which is just your raw contributions. It's not your indexed value. So if you need this, what you do is you take the index value, because having looked at the NAPSA app, it's not something I've seen. Even on the NAPSA website itself, they still don't give you the index value. That is a calculation they do then. Now, there are quite a few things that people have to now pick up on. One is that when it's time for this, now remember, people, that 20% is only eligible for people who have made 60 contributions. 60, or you are above the age of 45. Or, not and, or. Okay? If you're above the age of 45 and you only made 20 contributions, you can still get 20% of that of the indexed value. If you are below the age of 45, you need to have at least put 60 contributions. Okay. So now this is what we want as many people to try and understand. So when you're making that benefit, what is it? Now the question is, you don't just want to do this out of excitement. Do it because there is an actual opportunity which you think this would be a good way to deploy that capital. People, this is your retirement. You may think nothing of it now, but trust me when I say this, an extra 500 kwacha or 200 kwacha or 1,000 kwacha in your retirement makes a lot of difference. When you are not working, you want to have access to as much of your money as possible flowing in. And when you are retiring, trust me on this, most of your needs are going to be cash flow needs. Right now, you have a job, you have an ability, you have a business, something is feeding you. So you might be a little bit arrogant to what may happen to you in the future. But in the future, you might face, okay, and I want you to really think about this. You might face a situation where your income generation capabilities are out, your business has fallen through. These are the assets you need to take care of you. So you first thing you need when you're retired, people, is you need a stream of cash flow. Some amount of money has to be coming in every single month because you have to buy food, you have to move around, okay? You need transport, you need to keep clothing. You're going to need to do stuff. So if you've got no mobility, no sustenance, and no shelter, you're going to have an issue in your retirement. So make sure that cash flow is maximized. To people who earn low amounts of money, let's say below 3,000 kwacha, and you're one of those who's going to be captured in that bracket at the time of your retirement, I'm telling you, withdrawing can be dangerous for you, because if you reduce yourself below the 180 contributions, what may happen to you is that you may end up having a problem, because if you're now getting a lump sum, you might end up finding yourself in a very vulnerable situation. So just in these last 5 minutes, I just wanted to also go through, as I said, the main types of benefits and some of the questions. We'll just go through some of the comments quickly that have been outlined here, and then a quick overview of the markets, because I know we haven't touched them today. If anything, so I think I'll just go through. Sorry, one of whoever puts this here, Daniel has come to say that whoever came up with the NAPSA Act scammed Zambian workers. Pension Act was the best. That's my opinion. That is bitterness speaking there. But yes, that part of them getting a share, that part is horrendous. That is. How can I get your NAPSA calculator? You'll see. I'll leave it as you stay tuned. If anything, having your NAPSA calculator with Mtwale makes sense for now. I feel like I'm preparing for exam. I understand why the layman cannot understand. This is too academic. Yes, people. This is why now you see why people like me are paid. Now you see. You think we just get paid ballast for nothing. Okay, now you understand. Okay, we've done a lot of mathematics. There's relevance now. Because tracking your wealth is important, because at any given time, your wealth estate is what is transferable to your loved ones, and your wealth estate is that. And people, yes, Priscilla Zulu, cash flow is needed in retirement. What if NAPSA is the thing that pays for your food, or pays for your, if NAPSA is the thing that pays for your food, or it pays for your, what's it called, or your transport, it'll be useful, people. Okay, it's useful. Yeah. So just make sure there's something coming in every month. And if you've got a spouse, they've also got something coming in every month. Unfortunately, it'll be divided because NAPSA will have issues. That's an actual amendment, by the way, that we all should be fighting for as a country. I've even spoken with, and this is off the one, obviously you can't even cite them, but even if you speak to the people who work there, they're not happy with that law. Okay, because they're also contributors to the fund, and they don't want a situation. So the only people who benefit from that law are people who have had 7 children or 8 children, and they've got multiple people who can then divide up. Now, I don't know how it teaches people who have multiple wives, or those are, just know that the law only recognizes one marriage, people. The law only recognizes one marriage. So that's just something you want to think about. Now, quickly, Vernon, just so that we can tap into the markets, because behind the markets, and I know that people have been dying to go through this issue, that's why we had to touch on it, is that the first thing that we want to quickly touch on today on Wealth Wednesday is obviously the markets themselves, or the kwacha. The kwacha got stronger again, got to 17.24. This is the strongest it's been for a long time, but towards the end of the day, we did see that the dollar started gaining value as well. Stock market is up a little bit by about 0.1%, and it's getting closer and closer to 8,000, while the bond market and the bond index did move up to its highest level as well in dollars. Bond index up to 3,000. Sorry, just the number didn't update, but up to 303 today. While the bond index in Qatar is up to 1,009. So they're both at all-time highs. While interest rates are still at 24.7%. Commodity markets yesterday did move down. Copper did shift down to 9,013, while oil is at 84.72 and gold still above 2,200. But in Kwacha, all the wealth insurance assets are down, with Bitcoin down 0.2%, Ethereum down 1.15%, and gold down 2.29%. Now, the major parts of it you're seeing is that the average return on investment of your different assets is bonds up 7.3%, stocks are still up 8%, but you can see that gold and USD, which were the top performers of the conventional assets, they are down. The dollars are down 4.7%, and gold is only up 5.5%. So remember, that's why I said the majority of your portfolio should be in stocks and bonds, and then you keep about 15% of it in gold, dollars, and cryptocurrency, or other types, or even you can even keep it in animals as well, because these are highly variable assets. Now, yesterday, very quickly in the news, there were no major stories domestically, but we did see that East Africa is tightening its belt for tax season. The copper shortage is threatening to the transition, so we can see copper prices being pushed upwards because of the green transition. Gold prices are hovering right now because they are awaiting the Federal Reserve's next decision, while the worries of the U.S. rate interest hike is what is pushing oil down a little bit lower than was expected. And we are seeing that profits from companies in the US are expected to be 5.2% lower. So that's going to be problematic for as many as possible. But one quick thing that everyone should look at for is at the end of this month, which we're going to wind up on, is that we will probably see about we're probably going to see a flat or a reduction in the price of oil. But just as a final statement, Vernon, I want to leave you with a quick thought. Please choose whether you want to use this contribution correctly to as many people as possible, because you don't want to be caught in this situation because you've misused it. I will leave you with some wise words for you to think about.
How did you spend your money? How did you spend your money?
I ate it.
How so? Were you thinking about tomorrow? Weren't you thinking about investing?
That time I wasn't thinking about that.
And I'm going to play it again just so
How
it
did you
sinks in.
spend your money? How did you spend your money? How did you spend your money?
I ate it.
How so? Were you thinking about tomorrow? Weren't you thinking about investing?
That time I wasn't thinking about that. To spend. No, when I go back, I'll get some more.
Okay, so
You had to
don't
play
be
it.
the one who twice. Yes, I did sing twice. Okay, twice. Twice. All right, so everyone, I'm wishing you a wonderful day. God bless you all. We'll be back tomorrow on our usual conversations. But yes, this should get everyone riled up. Have a wonderful day, Brendan.